This lad, I mean, wow.
Under my Cucurella, Ella.
What Fernandez does is he notices when other players have moved out of their position. And then he feels it.
I watch football most weeks at the London Stadium watching West Ham, so what I think...
You don't see that quality.
Exactly, yeah.
You've got to have people like him doing stuff that the manager needs in a tactical setup. So.
Chelsea's young superstar Estevao lit up Stamford Bridge with his last-minute winner against Liverpool as the Blues romped to a 2-1 victory at home to the former league leaders. I'm Will Pugh. That right there is Sun Sports tactical guru Dean Scoggins. This is Tactics Exposed. And Dino, what a game that was at the Bridge. Enzo Maresca racing down the touchline, Jose Mourinho style. Chelsea fans feel like their season has finally had the touch paper lit after struggling without Cole Palmer. And you, as always, mate, have got 5 tactical teasers that fans may or may not have noticed from that exhilarating game in West London.
Yeah, it had everything, didn't it? I mean, if the Chelsea fans have calmed down enough by now, we can tell them a few things that happened. So, number 1, Estevao, only place to start, where his smile is almost as great as his skills. Number 2, come on, Phil the Moyes. Not your Moyes, we're talking about Moises Caicedo and his amazing performance in midfield, and a little thing we spotted with the goal as well. Number 3, make ends meet. There was actually 2 Enzos, Enzo Fernandez and Enzo Maresca, but the role that Fernandez played in midfield was really key tactically. Number 4, Gusto, box to box. We talked in the previous show about what they do without Cole Palmer in that position. This was a bit of a surprise. And number 5, under my Cucurella.
You always set these up for me. You've got to do some singing.
I'm not going to sing, but yeah. What we talked, I hope you watched that preview show, Chelsea fans, because we talked about how they need to use the fullbacks differently, and that's exactly what they did.
Exactly. Well, mentioning team talk on Thursday, of course, Dino, we, a long time ago on Tactics Exposed, ditched the idea that we don't like to say, we told you so. But in this case, we very, very much did. The whole show led on Estevao, of course, and he came to the fore and delivered when it really mattered at the end. For one so young, Chelsea fans were kind of willing to give him a pass, saying he's going to be mustered in years to come, making an impact already, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, it was a difficult one because I thought he should start, right? So to focus on him was correct, but I thought he should start in that Cole Palmer position. He didn't start there, Malo Gusto did, and we'll come back to Malo Gusto, but we should really note, just before we get on to Estevao, Enzo Maresca could have settled at 1-1. The game was a bit frantic. Liverpool were kind of in the ascendancy, had a lot of attackers on the field, and Enzo Maresca could have made the decision that, we just need to sit in here, but he didn't. He brought on Gittins, he brought on Estevao, and he went, okay, let's go. And what that did in the game, tactically, was meant Robertson was getting a lot of joy going forward after he came on for Milos Kerkez, and Liverpool was squeezing the game up on Chelsea. And instead of going, okay, let's mark Robertson, bring on someone a little bit more defensive, he went, no, I tell you what, let's get Robertson marking someone go the other way. And we'll show a perfect grab of that scenario where Robertson's thinking, I want to go forward. Konate and Van Dijk are in decent positions, but because Estevao's come on, they cannot go into that position there. So first of all, hat tip to Enzo Maresca for that. Secondly, this lad, I mean, wow. I mean, he is 18 years old. He's born in 2007. It makes you feel a bit sick, doesn't it? But look, we can go on all day, which I won't, about his touch, his skills, his delivery for that Enzo Fernandez header at the back post was just magic. But the thing that I've picked out, which is really, really key, and Cole Palmer does this a little bit, is this magic move into space. It's like the Samba spaceman, I think is what it is. I talked about when I was growing up, and there were certain players who did this, and the one I always pick out is Eric Cantona. Right. So it's this ability to move the opposite way that the game goes and still get the ball. And that sounds really odd, right? But I'll show a couple of occasions it happens and try and explain it with our graphic, where the ball's about to go over to the left, let's just say, maybe through the midfield or out the other side. It happened before his goal, it happened for his goal. And the game naturally, obviously, drifts in that direction. And the natural instinct from most players is to get back into those positions. So the back four goes across, the left back moves across, the midfield comes in. What he does is just drift backwards into a little position where he can go in all directions.
Yeah.
So if the ball comes back the other way, yeah, give it to my feet. If the ball comes across midfield, drift back out onto the wing, that side. The ball goes out to where it was crossed from. He's got the space to attack in front of him. And look, I know you do, and the people who go and watch Premier League football close up every week get to see how tight those games are. It's not until you're really close to the pitch you realise that there isn't that much space.
No.
You watch it from a camera up on the gantry and you think, oh, the pitch is big. It is not. These are 22 men moving into zones, or 20 men moving across the field into zones. And for him to find that little bit of space at that age, have that ability to find that space, is just, the quality is amazing.
Absolutely. Just worth noting, though, I watch football most weeks at the London Stadium watching West Ham. So what I think
You don't see that quality.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, apart from when opposition like Chelsea and Arsenal and Liverpool come to town, of course. Look, he was absolutely amazing, Dino. Was he, just quickly before we move on, I know he didn't start like you said, but was he utilised in the way you expected him to be and that we discussed on Team Talk once he came on? Yeah,
that's an interesting question, because no, he probably wasn't, because I was expecting him to play much more in the Palmer role. But when he came on, I mean, he had 26 touches in this game. He came on in the 75th, 76th minute. If you work that out just mathematically over, that would have been 100 touches if he played 90 minutes, which is unheard of for a wide player or a number 10. But what he managed to do when he came on, because of that movement, was almost do both jobs.
Right.
Which was really, really impressive. So he dragged Robertson out to that side when it went wide, and then when the ball was in the pocket positions, he managed to get himself in there, which meant then the fullback could go up the outside, which at that stage was Malo Gusto, because he had moved back into the right back position. He also had the benefit, I should say, at that stage of Lavia and Caicedo in midfield,
yep.
which meant that Gusto can be knocked on and then he can move inside. But perhaps not. But I mean, with that ability, it doesn't really matter where you play him. I mean, honestly, I think in certain tight games, they could play him as a false nine if they wanted to, because they could drop into positions. He can absolutely play in the Cole Palmer position, and obviously off the right-hand side as an impact player. Just, as I said at the start, wow.
Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful, isn't it, seeing a fan base fall in love with a youngster quite so quickly as the Chelsea fans have. Look, Dino, one player who, to be fair, took a little bit more warming up after an extremely mega money move, or an extreme mega money move, even from Brighton all that time ago now. Moises Caicedo, come on, feel the Moise, is your nice little musical headline for this one. An absolute wonder goal to kick off proceedings at Stamford Bridge. Absolutely sold Virgil van Dijk for a Burton with that dummy before whacking it top bins, as the kids say. What a performance, though, aside from just the goal.
Yeah, I mean, we'll come on to Virgil van Dijk another day, maybe, because I feel like I need to do a whole show on Virgil van Dijk. Watch this space.
Be careful.
Yeah, but let's concentrate on Moises Caicedo getting the plaudits he deserves. I mean, that was a 10 out of 10 for me. I don't think he did anything wrong in the whole game.
Yep.
He was involved in everything. Goal, move, interceptions, the position, right? I heard a coach talking about this when I had the privilege of watching a high-level session, and he called it goes and toes. And this is where you got a midfielder who's in exactly the right position, so that if the ball gets played and he can go for the interception, he goes. And because he's look, not far from different to you, to me away, a couple more yards, the ball gets played, he can go. And then if he's not in that position to go, the ball doesn't get played in there, he's blocking off the toes of the centre forward.
Okay.
So he's in such a good position that he can go one way or go the other way. And he just did it all afternoon. And I was rewinding it when I was going through the research, thinking there's two of him. Yeah. There is two of him, and there wasn't. It was, so there's only two Moises Caicedos the Chelsea fans should be singing, I think, because he was absolutely everywhere. I mean, we could do his heat map, but it'd probably cover the whole pitch. You look at the touch map, it was everywhere, right back, centre back, and there was this one moment where, I should pull out two moments. One in defensive positions where Liverpool got the overload on the left-hand side. The centre-backs got spread out a little bit from Chelsea. And Caicedo was there for a cutback from Gakpo, and he just took it off Isak and went away. Unbelievable engine, obviously, in position. And then the second one was the build-up to the winner. Now, the pass that he played was, if Estevao or Cole Palmer had done it, we'd have been going, wow. The ball gets played into him in a tight position. He's obviously already looked and seen that he's dragged 2 Liverpool players towards him, and he knows where Lavia is. And he just plays this blind ball over his shoulder, which, I mean, a holding midfield player shouldn't have the right to do something like that. And it kind of got overlooked because Chelsea are then on the counter-attack and then they go. So, yeah, he was just sensational, right? And the thing with the goal, and look, it was a great strike. And as you say, the little dummy that he gave, which meant that Van Dijk went across where Gusto was running into that space. Van Dijk should block that, right? He should be out for the block.
Should block the shot.
Absolutely. Shouldn't be thinking about the man running, because that should be your left-back's man. Like, he should go out to block.
But
take nothing away from the strike.
He's trying to do both, right?
Devil's advocate. But then he does neither.
Yeah.
So make a decision, one or the other. And if he'd have gone over to the winger, maybe Konate would have come out and tried to block it, because the knock-on effect is that. But look, let's not take anything away from the strike. But look, in the build-up to the goal, this was a set move. This had come straight off the training ground. They did something very similar to Liverpool last season. It didn't quite work. We'll come on to the box midfield thing in a moment. But what we've got, and look in this, is Enzo Fernandez takes Gravenberch for an absolute ride, brings him out of the position, and then that means that they're overloaded in the midfield, okay? And so that means that Badiashile can play the ball into midfield, and then Caicedo sees the space and can bounce off and take the ball through. And where they normally have 4 men in there, Chelsea, they've made it with 3. As I say, we'll come on to that in a moment. But they've just completely sold the Liverpool midfield up a garden path, and straight after it, I mean, the great thing for me is, I think we've got a grab of this as well, is that Enzo Fernandez is celebrating Caicedo's goal before Caicedo has a shot. And it's absolutely fantastic from Chelsea. They know it's a set move. The bench all celebrates together. The guys with the iPads were up. And yeah, just capped, well, it was early in the game, but Caicedo's performance, as I say, 10 out of 10.
Coaching staff having iPads on the bench, utter woke nonsense, Dino. Making ends meet, you've mentioned Enzo Fernandez, of course, there he is celebrating. That before that goal went in, like you mentioned. We've also got Enzo Maresca on the bench, sent off. Such were the passionate nature of his celebrations at the death. But too right, I think Gary Neville said it right. He said, if you're going to get sent off for anything, that's what to do it for, celebrating a goal. But making ends meet, which one do you want to focus on first?
Yeah, I want to say that obviously credit to the manager for this, but I really feel like he's a polarising figure, Enzo Fernandez. You meet Chelsea fans who just don't think he's good enough. He's a World Cup winner, but he doesn't do enough in play. And you meet Chelsea fans who perhaps watch the game a little bit more like me, where they're watching tactical stuff as well. He is the tactical master in the Chelsea setup, okay? All teams have got one. We talk about them like Bernardo Silva for Manchester City, for example, Odegaard for Arsenal, which they've had to adapt to. This guy is, when the manager has a certain plan he wants to carry out, this is the guy who does it for him. So what Chelsea did in this game, we talked about how all the time in the box formation, they try and get 4 into midfield. They didn't do that today. So again, we'll come on to that with Gusto in a minute. But what Fernandez does is he notices when other players have moved out of their position. And then he fills it. So there's an occasion where Garnacho, as is his right, goes in to try and receive the ball in midfield. So Enzo Fernandez goes out to the left wing and makes sure he engages the Liverpool back 4, because Maresca's got this tactical setup that he wants, and if the certain players aren't in the certain positions, he doesn't believe you can play through the lines like you'd want to. And Enzo Fernandez does that brilliantly. So if a left back goes to invert, sometimes he goes to left back. If a winger, as I say, Garnacho goes in, he goes there. There was the occasion for the goal where he goes and plays in the striker position, and then he drags Gravenberch out of position. So that it was just an all-round, really, really clever performance. He got in should have scored with his header, but the back post, he got in the box, involved in the winning goal. So it was an all-action performance, and he does things that go unnoticed, like he blocks passing lanes, which I'm a big thing and big tactical setup. Chelsea could not progress the ball through the middle of the pitch. Liverpool could not progress the ball through the middle of the pitch because Chelsea had this setup where when they press with 2 up front, Enzo Fernandez goes with a 2. And then when they realise that Konate or Van Dijk are the only one who's got the ball and they're being pressed from a winger, he drops in Enzo Fernandez and blocks off the passing lane. So he's doing so much unseen work that you might think if you just watch him for skills and tricks and flicks and passes, he's not doing all of that other stuff. But if you've got an Estevao, you've got a Cole Palmer, you've got Garnacho, you've got Neto, you've got João Pedro, you've got to have people like him doing stuff that the manager needs in a tactical setup. So I was really impressed with him again.
I guess, Dino, that's one of the reasons these days why, 105, 106 million pounds it was Chelsea paid for Fernandez. Took a bit of a while for anyone of a Chelsea persuasion and in the wider football world to realise why. But lots of the time these days, managers are paying for a player's ability to absorb and be like their tactical captain on the pitch as well.
Yeah. And you can't just, as a manager in a stadium full of 40, 50,000 people, be getting messages across all the time. You've got to have some players who know that there's a plan A here and there's a plan B, and then communicate that to them. And look, and don't forget as well, more goal involvements than any other Chelsea player in this calendar year. Not Cole Palmer, and obviously Estevao just getting started. He's top of those statistics. So really, really great performance.
Yeah, you won't find many Chelsea fans these days who don't rate Enzo Fernandez an awful lot. And Dino, you're talking about every Premier League team having a high-level tactical person within their ranks. If the views on Tactics Exposed keep going the way they're going, we are worried we will lose you to one of the Premier League's biggest
I'll send my
teams.
agent across to talk contract.
Absolutely. Please go to West Ham. Please go to West Ham. Right, number 4, Dino. Gusto box to box. I don't think I've ever heard this as a song before, so I'm not going to sing anything.
Gusto box is what you get through the post with your food.
Oh, God.
Come on.
We haven't even got a sponsorship deal with Gusto either.
I'm going to have to explain my puns.
You know what? Everyone in the comments, week to week, always goes, the headlines on these are brilliant. Thanks very much for the love, by the way. If you want to give Dino a bit of grief for that one, feel free. Gusto box the box.
I don't mind. 4 out of 5 isn't bad, is it?
Malo Gusto, though, absolutely brilliant for Chelsea. To be fair, a bit of a surprise character in the piece, I think, particularly in the role he was playing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, as I said in the preview show, they had to find a solution to Cole Palmer. And from an attacking sense, obviously they brought Estevao on later on, but from a setup sense, they did it with Malo Gusto early on. And what I think we saw is a real evolution of Enzo Maresca's tactics here. And that's really exciting for Chelsea as the season goes on, because I think one of the criticisms that could be aimed at him as he's gone so far is that he's rigid. And we talked about this with Arteta previously. We've talked about this with Pep Guardiola. These are top-level managers, so we can't be too critical of their way they play. They're brilliant at what they do. But Maresca's box that we talk about in midfield, it can become a little predictable. Unfortunately for Liverpool in this game, they thought they were predicting it and they didn't. And what was so intelligent about it is that they made it a box of 4, but with only 3 players, right? That sounds crazy in a little sense, but because Caicedo was doing what I said and going along the back 2 and moving across the base of the box, and then Malo Gusto and Enzo Fernandez were doing that on the top 2 points of the box, so they're shuffling up and down, and if it goes that way they can move in that direction, if that move in that direction they go the other way. The intelligence of that meant that Liverpool was sort of like, we're playing against 4 here, but there's only 3 players. And there's one thing that you've really got to notice with Liverpool is their 2 centre-backs are always 2v1 against a striker. They will not step out. And that gave Chelsea a real opportunity, which they took, because Gusto and Enzo Fernandez, as I mentioned before, were floating around in those sort of 8 positions. And then when there was an opportunity to go in behind, especially Gusto, he did this really early in the game, he went to go over the top. And that means McAllister, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai are thinking, we've got a problem going the other way here, because Van Dijk and Konate will not jump out. Again, I'm trying not to be too critical of Van Dijk here. We'll save that for another day. But the 2 of them were just occupied by João Pedro. Now, again, João Pedro, you might think, didn't do a great deal in open play, but he was part of the plan. occupy both centre-backs, so that frees up Enzo Fernandez to go in one direction and then Malo Gusto to go in the other. So if Enzo Fernandez is coming to feet one side, Malo Gusto's going in behind the other. So the Liverpool midfield three gets broken apart. And that happened for the Caicedo goal. It happened with a couple of times they got in behind. And Gusto's positioning, look, it's not totally foreign to him because when they do invert the fullbacks, Chelsea, he goes into a number 10 position. But to start in that position, and not move into that position in play, I was really impressed because you've got to be able to play with your back to goal and then make a decision. Am I having the ball to feet or am I looking for the ball in behind? And those two were so flexible. It meant that it looked like, as I say, Caicedo doing the job of two men. Those two moving to 2 points of the box. They were creating a box with only 3 players.
Absolutely. I mean, we've said for a long time how Rodri does the job of two men, or certainly on form Rodri at his best. Ballon d'Or winning Rodri does that. And interesting to hear what you say about the defenders, Dino, for Liverpool, Van Dijk and Konate, because there's not many teams in the Premier League, is there, who don't have at least one of their centre-backs sort of jumping out and following with the attacking team? Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's a big problem for Liverpool. I honestly do, because this was identified now that what Maresca's done is he's put Neto on one wing, so 1v1 with the left back. He's got Garnacho on the other wing, 1v1 with the right back. He's matched them up in midfield with a 3. And then what Chelsea did braver was that Cucurella, which we'll come on to in a minute, doesn't just mark Salah. Reece James, who was excellent, by the way, because he started at right back, moved to centre back, brilliant performance all round, won all his duels, was top of the stats. But he then would make a decision whether to come out. So then it wasn't just 3v3 in midfield, because Chelsea were the ones using the extra man to overload, and Liverpool didn't overload the midfield, so they just got walked over in there. And then when Estevao comes on, when Gittins comes on, Chelsea carried on doing that in midfield, which meant the wingers had the space going forward. So Gusto did the tactical job along with Enzo Fernandez, and it worked a treat.
Yeah, I find it very interesting, Dino. It's almost, I don't want to downplay what you do, but it's almost, it's one job of work, isn't it? Highlighting what the opposition are going to do and how they like to play. It's a different kettle of fish entirely, even if you know, or you think you know the script, then counteracting it
Absolutely
on the pitch,
right.
having the players to absorb the information and then sort of implement it physically.
Yeah, spot on. And there was one occasion just to highlight on that Liverpool tried to really press the game up, and I think it came from the Liverpool bench where it was just before half time, and they were thinking we're in real trouble here. So instead of the midfield getting an extra body in it, let's really compact the game and really compress the game, which they did. And Arne Slot's going like this, and Isak comes in. They all come back in a compact. But then, of course, what that means is Chelsea have got the ball over the top. So it's a bit of a win-win for Chelsea there. So, really good tactically.
Right, Dino, point number 5. I'm going to give you one. Under my Cucurella, Ella.
What more could you
No, you're
want?
supposed to go A. Come on,
You're
Dino.
very good. I'm not.
You set me up for these every single week, but you deserved the song from me this week. It's such a good show as you've put together. Marc Cucurella, a man I've actually admired for a long, long time. There was talk for a little while that he was going to come to West Ham from Brighton. Obviously, then he saw the light and thought, actually, I'll go to a big club across the other side of London instead. He's been absolutely brilliant at Chelsea, and although there was some trepidation among the fan base early, he's actually eased himself in very slowly, and no doubt this will be something the guys will be covering on our brand new Chelsea podcast, Chelsea Exposed, later on today.
Yeah, you can catch that on our Sun Sport Chelsea YouTube channel, which is brand new. Very exciting. Go and look for Lloyd and Dan and Jack talking all things Chelsea as we grow our YouTube fan base even more.
Exactly, yeah. So just search Chelsea FC Sun Sport and you will be able to find that Chelsea Exposed podcast coming out later on today. Cucurella, though, Dino, like I say, I think at first, Chelsea fans weren't really too sure about him, and it feels like under Maresca, and particularly with the new sort of inverted fullbacks that are so in vogue across the Premier League at the moment, Cucurella's really starting to shine.
Yeah, he's one of the players that opposition fans love to hate.
Yeah.
And I think that says everything about him, because he's combative, he's quick, he's very, very committed, and tactically, most importantly, very, very astute. So you're quite right to mention the inverted fullbacks, because that's what he's done a great deal. Most Chelsea fans don't need me to explain this, but often with that box midfield of Maresca's, Cucurella's the one who goes into the base of the box, or even the number 10 of the box, to form the 4 players in midfield. In this game, they didn't do it. And that was really, really clever, and there was a couple of reasons for it. So we can show Cucurella's heat map as well. Just like a normal left back, normal left back, Premier League
a 90s left back.
Yeah, absolutely.
A Gary Neville style left back.
Yeah, up and down the touchline, every now and again getting in the pocket for a cross going forward, and obviously every now and again having to cover a cross inside his own area. A very sort of normal left back heat map, if you like. But what was important, and the reason it happened in this game, is Mo Salah. So against Mo Salah, he did this Cucurella when they played Saka last year as well, and I think he allowed Saka out of his pocket about 3 days later. Maybe Salah's still there now.
Dean Scoggins in Arsenal baiting shot.
Had to get one in there, didn't I? But yeah, look, one of the reasons they did this is because obviously you've got to think about Salah defensively. You can't just say the guy's not in great form at the moment. We're just going to think, it'll be okay. You just can't do that. So what it means is that the starting position of Cucurella means that him and Badiashile are like, look, between us, we've got this covered. And most importantly, as I said, Liverpool don't do is go man v man. Chelsea are brave. So the other centre-back, which there was about, how many did they have in the game? 5, Chelsea, but Acheampong to begin with, went 1v1 against Isak. So that is a brave call, which means that you can use Cucurella flexibly. So obviously, in defensive positions, you've got Salah. But then as you get the ball, what it meant, we know that, look, I'm not going to call Salah lazy, that's really unfair. But it's a position that Liverpool allow him not to track back into. A bit like Man United with Mbeumo.
Yeah.
It's one of those where you want to spring the counter-attack. Our midfield and defence are so good that we're better to leave him in an area where he can counter-attack. But what Cucurella did was sort of position himself halfway in between, so that then...
Between who, Dino?
Between Salah and the touchline,
right.
So that then, if they lose possession, he can still get back in there. And then in attacking positions, Badiashile can get the ball, and then he can be the one that can exploit Salah and become the extra man going the other way. So Salah didn't block the passing lanes well enough like Enzo Fernandez did, which meant that Cucurella sometimes could go inside, sometimes he could go outside and receive the ball from Badiashile, and they could get out really, really easily from there. And so it was a clever move, because what I think Slot, Salah, Liverpool and the analysts are expecting is Cucurella to fully invert, which then means, right, we'll pick them up with a box in there and then Salah's free going the other way. Or we'll drag Badiashile out to Salah and then the ball's away for Isak to be 1-1 there. It didn't work, and effectively what happened was you've got a man over, because, as I say, Van Dijk and Konate won't go man v man. So Pedro's occupying 2, extra man there. Salah was a bit of a passenger because of Cucurella's position, which meant you got 2 men over. And that was the reason that Chelsea could win all their battles all over the place. And as I said, there's 2 Moises Caicedos as well. So they were probably 14 v 11.
Is this not a man, Dino, as well, Marc Cucurella, who's one of those players who is bought and is valued as much based on his tactical flexibility and his ability to drop into various different positions on the pitch, which in this day and age is a difficult thing to do, and play all of them to the elite level required for you to start in the Premier League?
Absolutely, yeah, spot on. And they'll have a players' meeting before, either 24 hours before or morning, lunchtime of the game, and they'll be given that instruction. And obviously they'll have trained in different scenarios in the build-up, but these guys are playing 3 games a week often. International football, they go off now. There'll be a different tactical plan. But, Maresca to be able to go to right, Mark, today or tomorrow, whenever he gave the instruction, this is the plan, this is what we're doing. And then I'm convinced that if it wasn't working for them, if Liverpool had done something different, the instruction from Maresca from the side would be go back to plan A, which is the box, yeah? So then Cucurella would have gone back to doing what he did before. But it worked a treat, and Liverpool's fullbacks didn't adapt, Liverpool's centre-backs didn't adapt, and look, Chelsea tactically blew them away.
Are they in the title race?
Yeah, why not? Get Cole Palmer back. Yeah, but get Cole Palmer back. Get Delap back second half of the season firing. They've got a big squad, and with the likes of Estevao, they can win games from nowhere. So, and look, I've been waiting, a bit like I said with Arteta, been waiting to see that tactical switch from Maresca that convinces you they can, and they showed that there.